You walk into a room already calculating how long you'll need to stay. You smile, you listen, you respond at the right moments, and from the outside, nothing seems wrong. But somewhere in the middle of the conversation, something shifts. Your energy quietly drops. You're still there, still engaged, but internally you feel like you're fading. And the strange part is, it's not about disliking people. Sometimes it even happens around people you care about. So why does being around others feel like it costs you more than it seems to cost everyone else? What you're experiencing isn't simply social dislike or introversion in the way people casually define it. Psychologically, it often has more to do with how deeply your mind processes social information. Some people move through conversations at a surface level, noticing words and basic emotional cues. But your mind may be doing something different. It's tracking tone, shifts in mood, unspoken tension, subtle inconsistencies, and emotional undercurrents all at once. This is sometimes linked to higher emotional sensitivity, or what psychologists refer to as deeper cognitive emotional processing. Your brain isn't just hearing people, it's interpreting them continuously. And that level of processing requires energy. So what feels like exhaustion from people is often the result of how much your mind is working beneath the surface. You're not just participating in interaction, you're absorbing it. And over time, that constant internal activity creates a quiet fatigue that doesn't always show on the outside. There's also something else happening that's less visible. When you're around others, your mind may be running a subtle form of emotional monitoring. You're noticing how people feel, adjusting your responses, choosing your words carefully, and sometimes even managing the emotional atmosphere of the interaction. Psychologists often connect this to patterns like people-pleasing or heightened social awareness, but it doesn't always come from insecurity. Sometimes it comes from learning early on that relationships required careful attention. That being attuned kept things stable. Over time, this becomes automatic. You don't consciously decide to do it. It just happens. But this constant adjustment has a cost. It means you're rarely just present. You're participating and regulating at the same time. And that dual role quietly drains your energy, not because you're weak, but because you're carrying more psychological weight in each interaction than most people realize. Another layer of this experience is how your nervous system responds to stimulation. Social environments are unpredictable. Voices overlap, emotions shift, expectations change moment to moment. For some minds, this level of stimulation is energizing, but for others, it creates a subtle state of alertness. Not fear, but readiness. Your brain stays slightly on, scanning and adjusting. Over time, this can lead to what psychologists describe as cognitive fatigue. It's similar to what happens when you focus intensely on a task for too long. Except here, the task is social interaction. And because it doesn't look like effort from the outside, it's often misunderstood. You might even question yourself, wondering why something that seems easy for others feels heavy for you. But the reality is, your system is processing more variables at once, and that sustained awareness requires recovery. Without it, the exhaustion builds quietly beneath your ability to explain it. There's also a deeper psychological pattern that often goes unnoticed. Some people experience a stronger internal boundary between themselves and others, but others have more permeable boundaries, meaning they naturally absorb emotional states around them. If someone is tense, you feel it. If someone is unsettled, it lingers in your system. This isn't about being overly sensitive in a negative sense. It's a different way of relating to the world. Your mind doesn't just observe emotional energy, it resonates with it. And while this can create deep empathy and understanding, it also means you carry more than your own internal state. After a while, it becomes difficult to separate what's yours from what you've picked up from others. This blending can make social interaction feel heavier than it objectively is. Not because people are too much, but because your mind connects more deeply than most. What makes this even more complex is the internal conflict it creates. Part of you may genuinely enjoy connection. You might value meaningful conversations, closeness, and understanding, but another part of you knows the cost. It knows that after a certain point, your energy will drop and you'll need time to recover. This creates a quiet tension. You want connection, but you also anticipate the exhaustion that follows. Psychologically, this isn't contradiction. It's dual awareness. You're aware of both the value and the cost of social interaction at the same time. And instead of choosing one side, your mind holds both. This can make your behavior seem inconsistent, even to yourself. Sometimes you engage deeply, other times you withdraw. but both responses come from the same place, a system that values connection but also needs space to remain balanced. The paradigm shift here is understanding that this experience isn't a flaw to fix, but a pattern to understand. In a world that often rewards constant interaction and social energy, quieter processing styles can feel out of place. But they carry their own form of intelligence, the ability to read between words, to sense emotional nuance, to think before reacting. These are not weaknesses, they're forms of depth. The exhaustion you feel isn't proof that you're incapable. It's evidence that your mind engages more fully than most environments require. And once you see it this way, something changes. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" the question becomes, "What kind of mind does this reflect?" That shift moves you away from self-judgment and toward understanding. And in that understanding, there's a different kind of stability, not loud, not obvious, but quietly grounding. If being around people sometimes drains you, it doesn't mean you're distant, broken, or incapable of connection. It may simply mean your mind experiences people more deeply than it lets on. And that depth comes with both beauty and cost. You're not alone in this, even if it often feels invisible. There are others who move through the same quiet exhaustion, the same need to step back and reset. And there's nothing wrong with that rhythm. It's not something to fix, it's something to understand gently in your own time.